Well, hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Off-Farm Income Podcast. You are joining me for episode number 729. And, of course, this is our YouTube channel. Thank you very much for being here with us. Well, today I get to speak with Olivia Moore. What an impressive interview. This young lady in the FFA in Kentucky has spent 2 years now singing in the National FFA Choir. She's going to talk to us all about the audition process, how she made that happen, and what goes into it. It's really, really interesting. And then after that, she's going to be talking to us about starting her own greenhouse business, how she's developed 3 different marketing and production plans for different seasons of the year, and how she's gone out and got over $5,000 in grant funding to start this by just keeping her eyes and her ears open and just going for it. Really cool interview. We'll start it for you right now. Joining me today is Olivia Moore, and she is coming to us from Western Hills High School in Frankfort, Kentucky, where she's serving as our chapter's vice president. Been eager to speak with her, and I finally get to today. Olivia, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
You bet. It's a pleasure to finally get to talk with you.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be talking and having this experience.
Well, good. I'm glad we finally got to make it happen, and I'm looking forward to talking about your supervised agricultural experience and everything you've been doing today. I wonder if I might be able to start off just by asking you a few questions about you so we can get to know who we're listening to.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, how old are you?
I am 17 years old.
Okay.
And I'm a junior in high school.
Okay, very good. And when you're not at school, when you're at home, are you on a farm or are you in town or something kind of in between?
It was at one point the family farm, and my family still continues to farm on some of the land, but it's not as large of scale as it was at one point. So it is farmland, though.
Okay. So is some of it being leased off or was some of it sold off?
Well, it's all still in the family. It's just been split up among the brothers in the family at this point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, that happens as time goes on and families get bigger, doesn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So what kind of farm has it traditionally been?
So at one point they do a lot of crops on the farm. So today they still do soybean and alfalfa and that sort of thing to help feed the cattle that we have. Not too long ago, it was actually a dairy operation. It was one of the only ones in Franklin County, Kentucky.
Oh, wow.
So that was pretty cool. So that's what it's been while I've been alive.
Okay, very good. Now, how long have you been part of the FFA?
I have been a part of the FFA since my freshman year in high school.
Okay. And what brought you into the group? Why did you want to join?
My family has been involved in FFA for many generations. So my grandpa was actually an advisor for an FFA chapter, and he was an ag teacher.
Okay.
And then both of my parents met through FFA, and they went on to be advisors themselves after being state officers. And now my sister, she went through FFA herself. She is now at University of Kentucky studying to be an ag educator. And I just figured if my whole family has done this, I feel like I should at least give it a shot.
Wow, I will tell you, you've got one of the deeper family legacies in FFA of anybody I've interviewed, and I've interviewed probably over 500 FFA students. I mean, with Grandpa being an advisor, both Mom and Dad being state officers, and then sister going to school to be an advisor, and that's significant. That's a lot of family history there.
Yes, and it's so cool to just hear about the agriculture industry as it has gone through each of their generations. It's a really cool thing to learn about and be a part of, for sure.
Very cool. Well, that is great. Now, so you're coming along and you're looking at all these people that have preceded you, and you're like, okay, I'm joining this organization. But here you are, you're serving as a junior, you're your chapter's vice president, so it sounds to me like you're making your own mark on the FFA as well.
I'm doing my very best to just take advantage of every opportunity that is presented to me through this organization, because there are truly so many different things that you can do as a student and a member of FFA. So I've really just loved being able to take advantage of all the opportunities presented in front of me and try to make the most of them.
What made you decide to become an officer, to, kind of go to that next level?
I began my freshman year. Obviously, my sister, she was a senior when I was a freshman. So my freshman year, she would drag me around to all of the events and try to get me involved in things. And I really started noticing that I felt like I had a place in FFA. And with that, I knew that I wanted to start taking on leadership roles in the organization so that I could help make that impact for other members as well and help to pull them in, as my sister had done for me. So last year, I served as the leadership committee chairman, and that gave me the opportunity to kind of plan different events and help get members engaged. And after last year, I knew that being an officer would help me to not only help members, but also help to guide the upcoming leaders for the chapter. And I think that's a really cool thing to watch and be a part of.
Yeah, very cool. Good for you. Now, you mentioned all the different opportunities and things that are available to you through the FFA. I mean, there's things like your career development events, of course, your supervised agricultural experience, there's speaking, there's parliamentary procedure. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. Has there been any one particular opportunity that's kind of stood out to you as you've gone through these last 3 years?
Absolutely. Well, I have a couple, but my number one that has been my absolute favorite was the National FFA Chorus. I did that my first year at last year's national convention, and the reason I actually got pulled into it was because my mom was in the national choir herself. So she was telling me all about it, and she said, hey, this would be a great opportunity for you to at least just audition and see if you get in. So I went ahead and I auditioned for it, and sure enough, I got in, and I had no idea what to expect. I was actually so scared going into it last year because I was the only person from Kentucky that I knew of going in.
Yeah.
And I was going to be in Indianapolis for a week with a bunch of strangers at the time, which seemed so crazy and scary to me. But after getting involved and having that opportunity, it broke me out of my shell so much, and that was one of the opportunities that has, I feel, impacted me the most. And I was fortunate enough to go back this past convention just about a month ago, and that has by far been the most memorable and incredible experience ever.
Very cool. So I'm sure that group of people started out as strangers, probably wound up as friends, right?
Yes, best friends.
Very cool. Okay, so here's one of the parts of the FFA, things that you don't see every day, things I didn't even know about until I went to my first national convention. Bands, choirs, I mean, things like this. So how did you get involved in doing that?
In the choir?
Yes.
So as I was saying, my mom was in the choir herself, and she was telling me about it, and I've loved to sing my whole life. So I knew that up until last year, I had known that every opportunity that I've taken through this organization has been an incredible one. So I figured, hey, why don't I just take advantage of this opportunity since it's here in front of me, at least give it a shot.
Yeah.
So I auditioned for it, and it truly was the most incredible experience I've ever had because I got to network with so many people as well as just hear about agriculture from all over the nation, which was really cool, but then also bond with people who had the same passion as I did with singing.
So can you remember a time when you weren't singing? Like, is there a moment in time you can point to and go, this is when I started singing, or has it just always been that way?
It has always been that way. When I was little, I would make up little songs, and when we were going on car rides to family vacations, I would be singing in the car. There were videos of me. It's something that I've always been surrounded by music, and I think that's part of why I've got that passion today too.
That is great. So when is the first time you did something organized when it came to singing, whether it be singing by yourself or in a choir, in another group? When did that first begin for you?
That really began my 5th grade year. I was accepted into the Kentucky Children's Chorus, which is an all-state chorus which you audition for, and they take a select number of 5th and 6th graders for that particular choir. So that was the first real choir experience that I had, and first real experience I've had to really grow my music knowledge, and that's a very defining point for me because from there I've just been able to really grow and expand upon my music knowledge, which has been really cool for me.
That is. So you're for you, auditioning is something that you've done before. It's not like when you auditioned for the FFA choir, this was not the first time auditioning for you.
No, it was definitely not. But I feel like every audition that I do is still a little bit nerve-wracking because you never know what the outcome is going to be.
Sure.
But I feel like the more that I do it, the more confident I become in my abilities. And that's something that is really important, I think, just in growth processes.
Well, and I always say this, and I'm not the first one to say it, but if you're not making yourself a little bit nervous, you're probably not pushing yourself hard enough. Right?
Exactly. I completely agree with that.
Yeah, that's important. Well, tell me about the audition for the FFA choir. So where did it take place? How many people were auditioning? What did you have to do? All that type of stuff.
Yes, so it's actually a pre-recorded audition, so that's kind of nice because it takes a little bit of the stress off.
Okay.
But you can get on to SSA.org, and there's a spot where you can go to see all the guidelines and things like that to fill out an application for it. So you fill out the first application part of it and kind of give some of your music background and what all you've been doing with music up until this point. And then for the actual audition, you have to do a 2-octave scale. And then along with that, you sing America the Beautiful. And then if you want to, you can put an additional piece at the end just to kind of showcase this type of music that you like to sing and that sort of thing.
Wow. Very cool.
And sorry, keep going.
Oh, I was just going to ask you if you did that. Did you put an additional piece at the end?
Yes, both years I did because I figured, hey, that's one more chance for them to see something that I can do, and this is something that I'm passionate about, and I wanted them to see that as well.
And so, what did you do at the end? What extra did you give them?
So this past year, I did "Welcome to the '60s" from Hairspray.
Okay.
And the year before that, I did "Choo Choo Boogie," which is kind of like an older jazzy style piece, but both are really fun and upbeat, and I felt like that was just something that would stand out to them and kind of be uplifting, and it's fun for me as well.
When you said "Welcome to the '60s," I thought you were going to say "Welcome to the Jungle," which is a song that I listened to a lot when I was about 13, and if that was the one you did, I was going to make you sing it on air, but I won't. But that would have been awesome. Very cool. Well, how did you learn those songs? Obviously, they're older songs. So how did you come upon them?
Yes. So I began taking voice lessons when I was in 5th grade, I believe, actually, because one of my teachers was a vocal coach as well. So I knew that singing was something that I loved to do, and I didn't have a great outlet for singing when I was in lower and middle school. So I wanted the opportunity to do that and really hone those skills just because it was something that I had such a passion for and I wanted to learn more about. So through those voice lessons, I was able to pick out different pieces, and my teacher also suggested different songs for me. So Welcome to the '60s was one that I had picked out just because I love the musical Hairspray. Okay. And then the other one was something that she had pulled out specifically and thought it would be really fun for me to do.
Very cool. That's fun. So how many members of the FFA choir are there?
There are about 80 members every year.
80. Wow. That is really cool. And how many people audition every year?
They don't actually give us an exact number on that, but I know there are hundreds, if not thousands, from across the nation who apply for it each year.
No kidding. And so once you become a member of the National FFA Choir, then how does that affect your life? You've got to be traveling if you're all going to sing together.
So we only perform at national convention. So the first time we come together is the Saturday before convention starts. So we get up there about half a week earlier than everybody else.
Okay.
So you don't have a clue who you're rooming with or who all is going to be in the choir. And like I said, I didn't know anyone who was going to be there going into it my first year. So showing up at the first rehearsal and meeting my roommates was a crazy experience to me just because I was surrounded by no one who I knew, but it also pushed me that much harder to break out of my comfort zone and meet so many new people.
So if the first time you ever get together with the whole group is at National Convention, then what are the expectations for you in terms of what you're doing to practice, to rehearse, and all those things during the rest of the year?
Right. So after you are accepted in, they send the music out about 3 weeks or a month in advance, and they also provide recording tracks with the different parts picked out on them. But you are expected to come in on the first day with your music, with all of the notes figured out. Like, you have to know the notes, you have to know the songs going into the first rehearsal so that we can get down the choreography that we have to go along with it, as well as just kind of putting everything together, because it takes some work to get all 80 voices on the same page and just making it all perfect for convention week.
Now, are there any solos during this performance, or is everybody doing it as part of the group all the time?
There are solos. So not every song has a solo, but there are several out of the selection that we have. And I was actually fortunate enough, I decided both years that I was going to audition for a solo and take advantage of that opportunity since it was there. And I figured, hey, if I get to do this, why don't I go ahead and make the most of every opportunity that's here? So I auditioned for a solo both years, and I was fortunate enough to get a solo both years as well, which was a really incredible opportunity.
That is good for you. So did you perform and do your solo? Was it at Bankers Life Fieldhouse, or was it another venue that you do it at National Convention?
So we do it at multiple places. So we kind of travel around Indy and perform different places. So this past year, yes, I did perform at Bankers Life Fieldhouse. And then we also go to the Arts Garden in downtown Indy, and then the City Market as well. And then we've got some other luncheon type things that we will go and sing at. So there are a lot of different places for us to perform throughout the week. It's just overall a really cool experience.
That is great. So what was it like for you the first time? And I don't know about the other venues, but I definitely know what it's like inside Bankers Life Fieldhouse. And I always get to be right down at the stage level. So I know what it's like looking out at that audience and at that arena. What was it like for you to go out there as a member of the choir, but then also to solo in front of all those people?
It is a surreal experience, to say the least. I would say it really hits you once you get in there for your sound check day, which is before everyone is there and all the craziness is going on. But you get to see the magnitude of the space that you are going to be singing in. And although we're just 80 people up on stage, we have the responsibility of filling this entire arena, which is crazy. But then thinking about a solo as well, it made me nervous, but I wouldn't say that it was a scared nervous. It was an excited nervous because I was supported by all these incredible friends that I've been making throughout the week with my choir right behind me. And then I've got people from my chapter, my state, all across the audience as well. So it's a really neat experience, and it's something that I've absolutely loved to do. I love performing, and it's been a great opportunity for me.
That is great. So will you be auditioning to be on the choir for your senior year as well?
I wish I could. Unfortunately, you can only do it for 2 years. So I did my 2 years last year and this year. So next year I will get to experience National Convention from the more typical side of it, if you will. Because I've not been to National Choir, or I've not been to National Convention without being in the choir. So it'll be a new experience next year for me as well.
All right, so you have topped out. You're too good.
Yes.
Very cool. Well, that is a fun part of this interview. This is the first time I've really learned about how the choir works. I've known it exists, but I haven't known the details and the specifics. It's really interesting how it all comes together. For sure. It's a really cool thing to be a part of, and kind of seeing everything from behind the scenes is something that I really loved having the opportunity of doing, and it's something that a lot of people really don't know about. So I love sharing that experience with people as well. That is great. Well, you've done a lot, and you continue to do a lot. I know you've got to have some great FFA advisors that have been standing behind you along the way. Who are those folks for you? They are Jeffrey Schaefer and J.R. Zinner. They are incredible, and they support me in so many ways and help me out with anything that I need help with. And I truly am so lucky to have them as I go on all of these journeys through FFA. No kidding. Well, thank you for acknowledging them. Olivia, really quick, I'm going to acknowledge a great sponsor for this show and everybody. That is Powder River Livestock Handling Equipment. Absolutely the best large livestock handling equipment. You're going to be able to purchase that familiar green color. I've been to their factory. I've seen how they're made, and they were developed out here in the West for some of the most wild cattle you can ever come across. And if they can safely handle those cattle and reduce stress when they have to be worked and touched by humans, well, they can do the same for your herd as well. Please go over to powderriver.com, check out what they've got to offer, maybe even try their new tool and design your own pin right there on their website. And when you do, approach your farm and ranch retailer and let them know that you want them to carry Powder River livestock handling equipment. Let them know that Matt Breckwald from the Off Farm Income Podcast sent you to them. That is powderriver.com. All right. Well, Olivia, let's talk about your supervised agricultural experience. So what have you been doing for that?
So my supervised agriculture experience has been something that has opened up so many opportunities for you, but I'll start by just kind of giving you an overview of what it is and what I've been doing with it since I started with it. So my SAE is called More Goodness. That's Moore, so a little play on words there. And it is a farm-to-fork produce operation for local consumers who are in search of fresh, local, and reliable produce. So I've always enjoyed working in my family's garden, even prior to high school. When I was really little, that was something that I just really had a passion for, and I loved doing the work in the garden. So from this, I just decided, hey, why don't I expand upon this and turn this into my SAE project going into high school? So that is exactly what I did.
Okay.
So although the size of the family garden was small, I just decided to utilize that to start with. But as I started going through my project and kind of figuring out what I wanted to do with it, I decided to go ahead and expand my garden to a larger size. So that was kind of the first move that I made with it, and something I knew that I needed some new equipment to make the process just more efficient. So I started applying for some different grant applications that would help me buy like a new rototiller and that sort of equipment just to make the whole process go smoother for me in the long run so that I could produce more as well. But then after expanding the garden, I decided, how can I expand this to something even bigger and branch out in a different direction as well? So my thought here was, why don't I start up a greenhouse operation? I love plants, and I knew that a greenhouse obviously would be a great way to expand my garden operation as well. So this past spring, I converted what was a 9 by 10 foot chicken hoop coop, which was my sister had chickens for her SAE. So I converted this hoop coop into a greenhouse by covering it with clear plastic, and I made grow beds to go in it. And that was a great start for me, just because I could kind of get a feel of what exactly is a greenhouse and what kind of things are good for planting in it. So it made me do some research on the backside of it, even if I couldn't exactly carry out everything that I wanted to, just because it was a pretty small facility and it didn't have a whole lot of equipment in it.
Okay.
But at the time, I didn't really have enough money to expand to a bigger greenhouse either. And at that point, I just so happened to stumble upon the Kentucky FFA Venture Capital Grant, which was a new grant that the Kentucky FFA had, and it was the opportunity to get up to $5,000 for your growing SAE. So I thought, hey, this would be an incredible opportunity for me to at least try to go for. So I went ahead and I submitted the first rounds of applications there, which was an executive summary of my business, as well as a video just kind of outlining what all I had done up until that point. And I was fortunate enough to make it to the second round of it, which was a live kind of questionnaire with judges at our state convention this past summer. And then at convention, they announced the winners, and I was fortunate enough to be one of the winners of the grant. So
awesome.
With that money, I've purchased an 18 by 20 foot greenhouse, which I actually just got in this past week, which is very exciting. It's not built yet, but all the parts are here. So it's just kind of getting a few last minute things set into place. And from there, I will really start learning about greenhouse operations and what I can do to utilize the greenhouse as well as my garden and make this a more full SAE as I am continuing on with my project.
That is awesome. And congratulations to you on finding an unconventional way of funding your project and going for it. I think that's great.
Thank you.
You bet. Now, are you able to say how much the grant was that you were awarded?
The grant was $5,000. They awarded, I believe, 4 of them. They had $20,000 that Kentucky FFA had just been given by a donor, and the donors just said, you guys can use this to help make an impact on students, and they chose to do this grant. And this has been one of the most fun ones for me to do, just because I've been able to talk one-on-one with judges and kind of articulate what all I've been doing to a larger scale of people other than just judges who sit in a room and I don't get to talk to them, if that makes sense. So it has been a really great opportunity, and it's opened up a lot of doors for me as well.
That is awesome. When you say it's opened up a lot of doors for you, give me an example.
Things just like this, having the opportunity to interview with different people, like local newspapers have come to me and they've asked me different questions and written up different articles. And that is one of my favorite things to do. I just love sharing what I'm doing in the agriculture industry. And it really allows, I feel like it motivates me, especially for my generation, because it's an outlet for me to do what I love and have people take an interest in it and appreciate what I'm doing, which is such a cool feeling. And I love to be able to help people come along with me and show them how they can do things just like I am doing.
That is great. Now, this is part of, they run the competition kind of like Shark Tank, the TV show, don't they?
It was what it was modeled after.
Very cool. Well, that is great. I'm so proud of you for not just everything you've been doing, but for going out and looking for opportunities to help make it work. You know, I've started a couple businesses, and both of them I've started, well, one I started for about $12,000, and really with the type of funding that you were able to get through that grant, I mean, you can start a business that can support a family. I was able to do it on $12,000. People have done it on much, much less. So for you to get that opportunity and to go after it is a real opportunity. It's a great thing you've done.
Yes, it's incredible to have these kinds of doors open up, and it's all because of the things that FFA has to offer for students, which is really cool.
That is great. Well, very interesting to hear about. So as this business is growing, you're gonna be going in, well, I mean, you've still got a half a year to go of your junior year of high school, then your senior year. So how is this business going to grow for you over the next year and a half as you're completing high school?
I've broken my business plan down into kind of 3 major components that I knew I wanted to hit on as far as products go when I want to sell the produce and that sort of thing. So what I've got it broken down into is the summer, fall, and spring growing season. So I'll kind of run through the different products that I have and what I'm trying to accomplish through this. So for the summer, one of the first things I started hitting on was summer produce, just because I started with summer produce with the family garden, and I knew that that would be a good starting place for me. So last summer, I believe I began selling 10-pound produce boxes, and they include just a variety of vegetables that people can use. And then it also includes a recipe to utilize as many of the ingredients in the box as possible.
Awesome.
So that's what I do for the summer, and those are such a huge success. Last year I sold about 16 boxes, I believe, and this year I've sold upwards of 60. So they showed huge growth, and it's been a great way for me to expand my business. But I knew that after I had kind of gotten that settled in and figured out how to accomplish that, I knew that I wanted to expand to the other growing seasons as well. So for the fall, I had this idea of having fall displays that I would go and set up for people. So this year I started kind of putting this into action by having my first mum crop. I had about 60 mums that I purchased when they were little, and I grew them until they were full-size mums in 9-inch pots. And that's been a great place for me to start, just because I've had no experience with fall crops for the most part up until this point.
Okay.
So this year I was really just focusing on how to produce mums, and then how can I move forward and expand upon this. So I'm hoping in the future what I can do is actually go out and sell sell displays, which will include mums, pumpkins, gourds, hay bales, and straw bales, rather, and just for businesses and families and that sort of thing. So that's what I'm looking at for the fall season. And then for the spring, something that I sort of started on with my smaller scale greenhouse was a spring salad bowl concept. So basically what this is, it's just different spring greens as well as radishes and carrots and that sort of thing. And I was able to start growing this type of produce in my greenhouse over the spring, but it just wasn't a big enough space for me to really put it into action. So I'm hoping that I can use the smaller greenhouse as well as the bigger one that I just had come in and kind of use that to help jumpstart the spring side of my SAE as well, to kind of implement that growing season and get more use out of it. So those are my main products that I sell and what my overall business goal has been from the start. So that's kind of where I'm working towards.
Very cool. Okay, so we know what the next year and a half looks like. We know what your goals are. So then high school will be over, and then what's next for you? What does life look like for you after high school?
I know that I want to go to college, and I will likely stay in-state to do that. And right now I'm trying to figure out exactly what I want to major in, but currently I'm thinking about either agribusiness, ag communications, or else ag education.
Okay.
And ultimately, I'm not exactly sure what I want to do as far as the profession goes, but I know that I want to be some kind of educator in the ag industry for people, whether that be students or just society on a whole, because I feel like there's a lot that goes unsaid in the ag industry, and I want to help expand and grow people's knowledge because it is such an important part of our world.
And then how about your entrepreneurial ventures? Is that something you want to continue to pursue?
That's something that I'm still giving some thought to, and I'm not completely sure yet, but I definitely see this as something which I will probably use as a summer job during college, just because I'll be home, and that'll be a good way for me to continue using the things that I have put so much work into. But I'm not entirely sure how long I will continue with my SAE, just because I don't know what I want to do for a career. I don't know if this is something that I want to actually grow into a large-scale business and entrepreneurship and make that my living. But either way, I feel like I have grown in so many ways through my SAE. It has given me incredible communication skills, and it's taught me how to truly grow and start a small business. And that's not to mention the multitude of agricultural knowledge that I've gained from this experience.
Very cool. Well, Olivia, this has been a very exciting interview. You've already done so many incredible things between the choir, between the Shark Tank competition in Kentucky, receiving the grant, and starting your business. I'm really excited for you. You've got an unbelievably bright future ahead of you.
Well, thank you so much. And it's such an honor to do things like this and be able to share what all I've been doing.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate you coming on today. Glad we got to speak and really enjoyed the discussion.
Yes, me too. I'd like to thank you so much for the support that you've given me as well. It really means a lot.
Well, thank you for joining us, everybody. Really appreciate you being here with us on the Off Farm Income Podcast YouTube channel. And as always, enjoy your journey to the ultimate lifestyle business, agriculture.